Wow, that's a tough question, Taylor.
Don't you want me to name names? Some local theater people?
Oh.
I don't like aliens. They freak me out. I'm just like, bad news. So like, Predator was like the scariest movie I'd ever seen in my entire life because he was an alien. And then Close Encounters of the Third Kind also like gave me nightmares for weeks. So I would say like interstellar creatures are my Dracula.
Aliens. Sarah too. That's
Funny.
That is funny.
Movies can really freak me out in TV shows. I can have some really dark dreams after I watch something that is dark.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was deathly afraid of anything macabre, but at the same time kind of strangely fascinated with it. And my number one boogeyman was skeletons. They were like, and this is when I was 4 or 5. Weirdly fascinated, but they scared the crap out of me. And in my father and mother took me to see a remake of King Kong, and the opening scene had all of these guys dressed up in skeleton costumes, and I just lost my shit. I was and my dad was all pissed off, and my mom was just like, "God damn it, Gary! I told you this was happening." And I spent the rest of the thing in the lobby, but. Getting past that and getting over that, now, like that kind of stuff, it really doesn't hold a lot of power over me. If I see a slasher movie or something, I'm more likely to laugh than cringe, but I still enjoy it, and I still enjoy, who doesn't like a jump scare?
I think the most scared I've been was, I don't remember how old, but I was fairly young, watching the movie The Eye.
I don't know it.
The Asian version, not the American remake, but it is deeply unsettling and greatly affected me because I was probably too young to be watching it. Yeah, and my house has a lot of windows, which freaked me out.
Yeah, that's bad.
Another scary thing to watch now is Supernatural. It freaks me out just a little bit.
Yeah, not too much.
Not too much.
Not too much. So there's this show from the 90s called Ghost Rider. It's like these kids that solve mysteries. They had a Halloween episode where this doll made out of bubble gum came to life and hunted the kids down and covered them in bubblegum cocoons. They didn't die. It was a kids show, but I was really freaked out at the idea of them being suffocated to death in bubblegum. And anytime the doll got hot, it would grow. And so by the end of the episode, it was like this towering 7-foot, disgusting creature with eyes that were ugh, and this face that was and it was clearly made out of plastic. It was so cheesy looking, but it scared the living daylights out of me. And it actually trained me to not be afraid to go into dark rooms, because my mom, who is a genius, was like, "But Taylor, the only thing you're scared of is whatever that creature's name was. And it wouldn't hang out in the dark. The dark is cold. It would go somewhere sunny. So you don't have any reason to be afraid of the dark." And so that's why I stopped being afraid of the dark. Because I was so scared of this other thing. Anyway, that's my personal Dracula.
I'm one of those people who's scared of the dark, and so whenever I'm, walking out at night or getting to my car, those last few steps are always just a rush and a sudden pull of the car door and just a little bit of hyperventilating and then moving on with my life.
Probably the most actually scared maybe for my life was, and nothing actually really happened, was I was in the parking lot coming out of a theater when I was in college. It was late at night, and it was just me, and all of a sudden these two people just jumped up and came running at me and just screaming, ah! And it turned out to be a couple of friends of mine who were just playing a joke, but I just froze. I just kind of so if these guys had been serious, I would have been dead, because I just stood there looking at them huh, what? And and they came and then I got you.
The most frightened I've ever been was in South Korea. I was in a crowded downtown area in a city called Daegu, and my roommate and I got jumped by a very drunk Korean man, and it won't go into the details about, you know, the society. Is just you don't want to be an American in South Korea fighting with an older Korean man, because everybody is definitely on the other person's side, even though he was the one who was assaulting us. And so, yeah, that crowd, a language that I didn't have much command on, and the fact that my roommate was pretty bloodied up, it was a very frightening situation.
I want to say death, but death doesn't really scare me that much. Other people's deaths frighten me. And uncertainty, death and uncertainty, I think would be it.
Pass.
What is my personal Dracula? Wow. California. The idea of California. Yes, and of going out there to possibly look at the idea of, if I went out there, would that industry accept me? And my avoidance of wanting to go to California, you know, I chose going to, even from temporary time, going to New York over California simply by what I got from asking people and stuff like that. California, yeah, because it has to have the attraction, right?
Yeah.
It's not Dracula without the attraction as well as the weird vampiric danger to it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So it's got both sides, the attraction and the fear.
Yeah.
My own personal Dracula, it doesn't sound too pretentious, probably myself. I know what frightens me more than anybody else, and I constantly put myself in situations that are scary for me. Literature and even being in theater, it's a pretty scary thing. So yeah, I'm my own worst enemy.
Anytime a play of mine is being read for the first time, that tends to be when I'm like, where like I'm probably annoying everyone. So I'm just like. If I'm like actually like I'm in a plane where it's like scary turbulence, I'm more kind of just. It's more of I just kind of fall into a peaceful calm, and later I'm like, oh wow, that was scary. I should have been a little more scared of that. But that's the moments where it's like my own personal work, I guess, is on display and being judged. And I'm like, that scares me. So
Yeah.
basically, that'd be my Dracula.
All right. Judgment.
Judgment.
Is like
Yes.
Dracula.
Death is whatever. Judgment. Oh no.
Well, I don't know about scared, but I passed out once reading Dracula. I did, actually. I was on a train in New York, headed into work, and I was reading it. And I got to like a really intense part with lots of blood, and I pass out, you know, like I do at the sight of blood, and I also have a really vivid imagination. I literally made myself pass out reading one of the more bloody sections of Dracula. I woke up like 2 stops away from where I was supposed to get off. I was like, I can't believe I just did that to myself. Yeah. Way to go, Bram Stoker.